The sun was just rising over the small alien town of Droma Ridge, when quiet streets suddenly filled with heavy footsteps. The morning light was soft, almost peaceful, but the sound of metal boots broke that peace like a knife, inside a tiny home. Near the edge of the town, an alien mother named Ralinari held her newborn baby close to her chest. Her skin, normally a soft blue color, now looked pale with fear. She had sensed the danger long before the doors opened. She knew this moment would come, but she had prayed it would not be today. Little Leary, her newborn daughter, slept peacefully. In her arms. She was only 8 days old, too young to understand the danger around her. Too young to know she was about to be taken. The door burst open with a loud crash. 3 dead hunters stepped inside. Their armor was dark gray, and their helmets had red, glowing eyes that made them look like machines instead of living beings. Their leader, a tall man with deep scars across his jaw, stepped forward with a cold smile. "Ralinari," he said, as if he were greeting an old friend, "the time has come." Ralinari tightened her arms around her baby. "Please," she whispered, "I just need more time. I can pay the debt. I promise I can." The leader laughed. "You said that last month, and the month before. We do not wait any longer." Ralinari shook her head again and again. "Not my baby. Not Leary. She has nothing to do with. The contract is clear," the leader cut in sharply. "Your debt must be paid. If you cannot pay with credits, you pay with what you have." 2 hunters moved toward her. Ralinari screamed and stepped back, but there was nowhere to run inside her small one-room home. The hunters were bigger, stronger, trained for this. One grabbed her arm. The other reached for the baby. "Please," she cried, her voice breaking. "Please don't take her. I will work every day. I will do anything you want. Just let me keep my child." But the leader only watched, his red helmet eyes shining with cold amusement. "You should have thought of that before borrowing from us," he said. Leary began to cry, her small voice filling the room. Ralinari tried to hold on to her, but the hunter ripped the baby from her arms with one strong pull. Her scream echoed down the street. The baby was placed into a small container with soft walls, made to hold infants during transport. The lid closed with a soft hiss, and Leary's cries were muffled. Trapped inside, Ralinari fell to her knees, shaking, her hands reaching out uselessly. "Please," she sobbed. "She is all I have. You cannot do this." The leader stepped close enough for her to see the scars on his jaw. "You knew the rules," he said quietly. "A debt must be paid." Then he motioned to his team, "Take the child to the warehouse. We leave in 1 hour." The hunters walked out without another word, carrying the container with the crying baby inside. The door shut behind them, leaving Ralinari alone on the cold floor. She pressed her hands to her face and wept until no sound came out. She felt empty, like her soul had been torn away with her child. But as she cried, a whisper of a rumor came back to her mind. Something she had heard 2 days ago in the market. A human is arriving at noon. Humans were rare in this part of the galaxy. But they were known for one thing. They did not fear bullies. Ralinari wiped her tears with trembling hands. Her heart was breaking, but a small spark of hope flickered inside her. If anyone could help her, maybe, just maybe, it was the human, and she would beg him if she had to. The sun was high in the sky by the time Ralinari forced herself to stand. Her body still felt weak from crying, and her legs shook as she walked toward the center of town. Every step felt heavy, like she was walking through deep sand. But she kept moving. She had no other choice. Her baby was out there somewhere, afraid, alone, taken by cruel hands, and she would not give up. As Ralinari reached the crowded market square, whispers spread through the people like a quiet wave. "He's here. That's the human. Look, over there by the landing pad." Ralinari followed their fearful voices. and for a moment she forgot how to breathe. A small dusty ship had landed at the edge of town. Its engines hissed softly as they cooled. Standing in front of the ship was a tall figure wearing a simple brown jacket and black boots. He looked almost ordinary compared to the armored aliens around him, yet somehow everyone kept their distance. He was human. The first human to visit Droma Ridge in many months. His name, as the townspeople whispered, was Evan Cole. There were many stories about humans. Some said they were too brave to be normal. Others said they were too strange to understand. Some believed humans were soft-hearted. Others believed they had iron in their blood. Ralinari didn't know which one was true. She only knew she needed help, and this was her only chance. She took a deep breath and walked toward him. Evan was checking a small device on his wrist when he noticed her. His eyes lifted slowly. They were a deep, calm brown, too calm for a place like this. Calm like someone who had survived many dangers and stopped being afraid of them. Ralinari's knees weakened again. She knelt in front of him, her hands shaking. "Please," she whispered. "I need your help." At first, Evan did not speak. He simply watched her, studying her face, her trembling hands, the pain in her voice. He did not look annoyed or surprised. He looked focused. "Stand up," he said quietly. She tried but stumbled. Evan reached out, steadying her gently. His hands were warm, and his voice was steady, very steady, like nothing could shake him. "Tell me what happened," he said. Ralinari's voice cracked as she explained everything. The debt she owed. The hunters who broke into her home. The baby taken to pay the price she could not pay. As she spoke, Evan's expression changed. His calm eyes grew sharper, colder. Not angry, something stronger. Something controlled. The crowd around them had fallen silent. Every alien listened, shocked that she dared to speak openly of the dead hunters. No one ever complained about them. Complaining was dangerous. But Evan listened to every word. When she finished, she felt empty again. She expected him to tell her he could not help. She expected him to walk away like everyone else. Instead, he asked one simple question. "Where did they take your baby?" Ralinari blinked. "You will help me?" "Yes," Evan said, as if it were the easiest decision in the world. "Show me," the crowd gasped softly. Some whispered warnings. "He doesn't know who he's dealing with. The hunters will kill him. No human can survive that." But Evan did not seem to hear them. He checked the time on his wrist device. It was exactly noon. Then he looked back at Ralinari. "We should hurry," he said, "before they move her again." Ralinari felt a wave of hope rush through her chest, hope she hadn't felt since her baby was taken. Tears filled her eyes again, but this time they were not only tears of pain. They were tears of relief. She pointed toward the far end of the town, where a large metal warehouse stood like a dark shadow. "That is where they took her," she whispered. Evan nodded once. "Then let's go get your child back." And with that, the human walked toward danger with quiet steps that held no fear at all. Ralinari walked beside Evan with fast, nervous steps. The closer they came to the dead hunter's territory, the more her stomach twisted with fear. She had been forced to work near this area once long ago. She remembered the cold smell of metal, the echoing floors, the cruel laughter behind closed doors. But Evan walked as if he were strolling through a calm park. He did not even put his hand on his weapon. He simply moved forward, eyes sharp, shoulders relaxed. It was strange, almost frightening, in its own way, how calm he was. The warehouse district sat at the far edge of Droma Ridge. The buildings were tall, windowless blocks of steel, standing in long rows like silent giants. Shadows stretched between them like dark rivers. No normal citizen came here unless forced. Ralinari pointed shakily at a large warehouse with red markings on the doors. "That is the place," she whispered. "The debt hunters use it for storage." Evan paused, studying the structure carefully. His eyes moved across every detail: the guard towers, the locked side gates, the broken lights, the small windows near the roofline. He seemed to understand the whole layout within seconds. "How many guards?" he asked. "4 outside," she said. "Maybe more inside. The leader, he is cruel. He will not give Leary back easily." Evan gave a single nod. "Stay behind." "Me," Ralinari swallowed hard. She wanted to run away, but she forced herself to follow. She would not leave her child, no matter the danger. As they approached the warehouse, the guards noticed them. 2 stepped forward, raising their weapons. The red glow from their helmets made their faces look like demons. One guard barked, "Stop there. This is restricted ground." Evan didn't stop. Ralinari gasped and grabbed his sleeve, but he kept walking. The guard aimed his rifle directly at the human's chest. "This is your last warning." Evan finally stopped, only 5 steps away from them. His face stayed calm, almost relaxed. He looked at the guard as if he were staring at a mildly annoying insect. "I'm here for the child you took this morning," Evan said. His voice was level and quiet, but something inside it felt dangerous. The guards exchanged confused glances. One let out a harsh laugh. "You must be new around here, human. That child is property now. Debt payment." "None of your business." Evan's eyes hardened. "She is not property. She is an infant. You will bring her out here. Now." The guards laughed even louder. One slapped his knee. "Oh, this is rich. A human playing hero." But the laughter did not last. Evan lifted his wrist and tapped a button on the small device strapped there. A hologram appeared in the air, a glowing badge marked with the seal of the Terran Protectorate. Both guards froze. The Protectorate was known across many star systems. Humans under it followed strict rules, but they also had powerful rights. One of them: any child taken illegally anywhere in the galaxy could be reclaimed by force if needed. Suddenly, the guards weren't laughing. "You're bluffing," one guard muttered, but his voice wavered. Evan stepped closer, slow and steady. "Bring her." The guards lifted their weapons again, but their hands trembled. They had fought many aliens before. But humans were unpredictable. Humans were dangerous when provoked. Evan's voice dropped even lower. "If you don't bring her out, I'll walk in and get her myself." Those words carried heavy weight. Ralinari felt chills run down her skin. For a moment, no one moved. The air felt too tight to breathe. Then the warehouse door slid open with a metallic clang. New figure appeared, the scarred leader, his red helmet glowing bright. He stepped outside slowly, like a predator studying prey. He looked at Evan, then at Ralinari, then back at Evan. "So," the leader said, voice cold and sharp, "a human thinks he can walk into my territory and demand something from me." Evan didn't blink. "Not something, someone. The baby. I won't leave without her." The leader tilted his head, amused. "Then you may not leave at all." Ralinari's heart dropped, but Evan's expression never changed. He simply said, "Try me." The warehouse yard fell silent, waiting for the storm to break. The air around the warehouse felt heavier than before, as if even the shadows were waiting to see what the human would do next. The debt hunters stood in a half circle around Evan, their weapons raised but their eyes unsure. Ralinari stayed several steps behind him, her hands shaking so badly she had to hold them together to stop the tremble. The scarred leader stepped forward, helmet glowing a deeper red. Behind that helmet, everyone knew he was smiling, his cruel kind of smile. "You walked a long way to die, human," the leader said. His voice echoed off the steel walls. Evan did not move. His face stayed calm, far too calm for someone surrounded by armed enemies. "I came to return a child to her mother," he said. "Nothing more." The leader let out a slow, mocking laugh. "Do you know who we are? Do you know how many people have begged us before? They all cried just like this alien. Mother, they all failed. Evan looked at him without fear. You talk too much. Ralinari's breath caught. She had never heard anyone speak to the leader like that. Even the bravest workers in Droma Ridge stayed quiet around him. But the human spoke as if the leader were nothing more than a loud child. The leader's helmet lights flared bright. Enough, he snapped. You show your badge like it matters. A protectorate symbol? You think that scares me? He waved one hand. The guards around him tightened their grips, ready to attack. One safety clicked off. A weapon hummed with power, but Evan didn't flinch. Instead, he tapped his wrist again. This time, the device on his wrist didn't show a badge. It played a recording. A deep voice echoed out of the device, strong, firm, unmistakably human. Any harm done to a child under protectorate protection will be answered with full force. Enforcement teams are authorized to intervene without warning. The voice was not angry. It was calm, official, final. A law, not a threat. The guards stepped back slightly. Even the leader paused. He recognized that voice. Everyone in the outer systems knew it. The protectorate commander. One guard whispered nervously. Ralinari's eyes widened. The human wasn't bluffing. His badge wasn't fake. His authority wasn't a trick. He was truly a protectorate representative, one of the only people in the galaxy allowed to take action anywhere when a child's life was threatened, and humans, when it came to children, were ruthless. Evan lowered his wrist and spoke again. His voice like calm steel. You are holding an infant illegally. Return her peacefully, and this ends quietly. The leader let out a slow breath, trying to regain control. You are alone, human. There's no protectorate ship above us. No backup, no team, just you. Evan tilted his head slightly, almost amused. You don't need a ship to make the right choice. The leader's voice sharpened. And you don't scare me. Evan finally stepped forward, just one step. But the sound of that single step echoed through the yard like a thundercl ep. Every guard tensed. Evan's eyes sharpened, turning cold and dangerous like someone who had walked through worse places and survived. When he spoke again, his voice was quiet enough that only the closest guards heard him. I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to stop you. The leader slammed his hand down, signaling an attack. Get him. Before the nearest guard could fire, Evan activated the second function of his wrist device. A loud tone burst through the air, sharp, piercing, vibrating the metal walls. The guards stumbled back, clutching their helmets. The frequency was harmless to humans, but disorienting to many alien species. Evan moved the moment they faltered. He grabbed the arm of the closest guard, twisted, and sent him crashing to the ground with a single motion. Another swung a weapon, but Evan ducked under it smoothly, swept his leg out, and knocked the second guard off his feet. Ralinari covered her mouth, stunned. He wasn't just brave, he was trained. Fast, efficient. He fought without wasted movement, without anger. Like someone who had practiced for years, the leader snarled, pulling out a blade, but Evan didn't even raise his voice. He simply said, "Last chance. Bring out the child." The leader hesitated, for the first time. He looked uncertain. Asterisk dust floated in the still air as the last echo of Evan's warning faded. The guards lay on the ground, stunned and disoriented, struggling to stand. Ralinari stared in complete disbelief. She had heard stories about humans' strange strength, sharp instincts, but she had never imagined something like this. Evan stood alone in the center of the warehouse yard, calm as a quiet lake. His jacket was dusty, his hair slightly pushed back from the sudden movements, but his breathing hadn't even changed. He looked at the scarred leader. "Bring the baby," Evan said again, voice steady and cold. "This is your last chance." The leader's red helmet flickered with anger. He took a step forward, gripping his blade tight. You think you can walk in here, human, and act like a hero? You think you can threaten me? I didn't threaten you, Evan replied. I told you the truth. The leader's jaw clenched behind the helmet. With a sharp gesture, he signaled 2 more guards who had been hiding behind crates. They jumped out, rifles raised, aiming directly at the human. Shoot him, the leader ordered. Ralinari gasped, covering her mouth. No, but Evan didn't look surprised. He simply raised his hands not in surrender, but in a slow, controlled gesture that made the guards hesitate. He looked at them, not the leader. You fire at me, he said quietly, and the Protectorate will mark every one of you as child traffickers. You know what happens next. The guards froze. Fear flickered through their eyes. Everyone in the galaxy feared the Protectorate's child protection laws. Entire gangs had vanished for breaking them. Evan took a single step closer. And I won't need reinforcements, he added. I can end this before your fingers finish pulling the trigger. The guards exchanged a quick look. Their hands shook. The leader slammed his blade into the metal floor. Cowards! He's bluffing. Humans bleed like anyone else. Evan's expression didn't change, but something in the air did. A quiet tension snapped, like an invisible rope, pulling tight. Evan lowered his hands and spoke in a tone that felt colder than steel. Then try me. The leader roared in anger and charged. He moved fast, much faster than Ralinari expected. For someone wearing heavy armor, his blade flashed in the air as he swung at Evan's head. But Evan moved faster. He shifted his weight, stepped aside just enough for the blade to miss, and grabbed the leader's arm. With a smooth twist, he forced the leader's weapon downward, slamming his wrist against his own armor. The blade clattered to the ground. Before the leader could recover, Evan pushed him back with a precise kick to the chest. The leader crashed into a pile of metal crates, knocking them everywhere. The other guards stared, stunned, speechless. Evan didn't press the attack. He simply straightened his jacket and looked at the remaining guards. I don't want to fight, he said, but I will. For a moment, no one moved. The yard was silent, except for the faint buzzing of broken lights. Then, from inside the warehouse, a small sound drifted out, a cry. A tiny, frightened cry. Ralinari recognized it instantly. Leary. She whispered, tears filling her eyes. Evan turned toward the warehouse door. His calm expression hardened again with purpose. He took a step forward, but the leader suddenly rose from the ground, helmet cracked, breathing heavy. No! The leader shouted. She stays! Evan stopped and looked at him, eyes sharp as knives. That baby doesn't belong to you, Evan said. And you know it. The leader raised a shaking arm, pointing at Evan. This is my land. My rules. You cannot walk in and steal my payment. Evan walked toward him slowly, confidently, without fear. I am not stealing anything, he said. I am returning a child to her mother. That is the only rule that matters today. The leader's voice broke with anger. You, human, you think you can decide that? Evan stopped in front of him, towering over him. No, he said. Quietly, the Protectorate decided that. The leader's rage finally shattered into fear. He lowered his arm. He had lost. Evan looked toward the warehouse door. Bring me the baby, he ordered. Now. And this time. Nobody dared to refuse him. The leader's shoulders finally sagged. His confidence, his threats, his cruel pride, everything seemed to fall off of him at once. He breathed heavily behind his cracked helmet as Evan stood inches away, calm and unshaken. A long, trembling silence filled the yard. Ralinari's heart raced. She felt so close to her baby now, but fear still twisted inside her. What if they hurt Leary? What if they moved her already? Every second felt too long. Evan's voice broke the silence. It was sharp but calm. Open the warehouse. The leader didn't move at first. His hands shook. His eyes darted between the human and his defeated guards. But when Evan took a single step forward, the leader flinched and finally obeyed. He pressed a control pad on the wall. With a slow metallic shudder, the warehouse door slid upward, revealing a dim interior filled with crates, machines, and cold shadows. A faint cry came from the far side of the warehouse. Ralinari's breath caught in her throat. Her baby, her little Leary. Evan moved first, walking inside with quiet footsteps. Each step echoed across the empty metal floor. Ralinari followed, hands pressed against her chest, as if she were holding her own heart in place. Inside, the air was colder. It smelled like oil and dust. Rows of storage boxes stood like tall, silent towers. But the cry grew louder, guiding them like a small beacon. "There," Evan said, pointing to a crate set on a metal table. Ralinari rushed forward, but Evan reached the crate first. His hands were gentle as he unlocked and lifted the lid. Inside, tiny Leary lay curled in a soft containment pod. Her blue skin shimmered with newborn softness, and her small hands opened and closed as she cried. Seeing her baby, Ralinari collapsed to her knees. Tears streamed down her face in rivers. She reached out with trembling fingers. "Leary, my sweet Leary." Evan carefully lifted the pod and placed it into the mother's arms. Ralinari held her baby close, rocking her gently, crying softly into her tiny head. Leary calmed instantly, as if she knew she was finally safe. Evan stepped back, giving them space. No smile crossed his face, but something softer appeared in his eyes, something warm and human. "You're safe now," he said quietly. Ralinari looked up at him, unable to speak. Her voice was lost in her emotions. All she could manage was a shaking whisper, "Thank you." Outside the warehouse, the defeated guards watched nervously, unsure what would happen next. Some looked ashamed, others looked terrified. The leader leaned heavily on a crate, breathing in ragged gasps. Evan stepped out of the warehouse, his calm gaze sweeping across them. "This ends today," he said. "Your operation is illegal. The Protectorate will be notified." The leader's voice cracked. You cannot destroy us alone." Evan gave him a long, steady look. "I don't have to destroy you. Truth will." He tapped his wrist device. A soft beep sounded. Evan had recorded everything: the threats, the aggression, the admission of child trafficking. Evidence strong enough to bring the entire organization down. "You will answer for what you've done," Evan said. The guards lowered their weapons, now too afraid to even meet his eyes. Some dropped their gear entirely. Their power was gone. Their fear was real. Then Evan turned away from them, almost dismissing them, and walked back to Ralinari. She still held Leary close, rocking her with quiet, grateful sobs. "Can you walk?" Evan asked gently. Ralinari nodded through tears. Yes, I can." Evan gave a small nod. "Then let's get you home." They walked out of the warehouse together. Behind them, the debt hunters remained frozen in place, the weight of their crimes settling on their shoulders like iron chains. Ralinari stepped into the sunlight, her baby warm in her arms. For the first time since dawn, she felt air fill her lungs deeply. Leary was safe, and the human who saved her walked beside her, silent and steady. The nightmare was ending, but the story was not over yet. The sun was beginning to set over Droma Ridge when Evan walked Ralinari back to her small home. The sky glowed orange and gold, painting the rooftops with warm light. It was the same sky that had shined over her fear that morning, but now it felt different, softer, calmer, almost safe again. Ralinari held Leary close the whole way, never letting her tiny daughter out of her arms. Every few steps she would look down just to make sure the baby was still there, still breathing, still warm against her chest. Leary made small, sleepy sounds, unaware of how much danger she had escaped. When they reached her home, Ralinari stopped outside the broken doorway. The memory of the morning flashed through her shouts, metal boots, the pod closing around her baby, her own helpless scream. Her legs trembled. Evan noticed her pause. "Do you want me to go in first?" he asked quietly. Ralinari nodded. "Please." Evan stepped inside and checked every corner. When he was sure the house was safe, he nodded for her to follow. She entered the small room with slow steps, holding her child close, letting the familiar walls comfort her again. She sat on the floor where she had fallen earlier, where she had cried until she could not breathe. Now she sat in the same place, but this time with Leary safe in her arms. Evan leaned against the wall, watching her with calm eyes. For a while, they simply stayed in silence, Ralinari whispering to her baby, Evan keeping quiet to give her peace. Finally, Ralinari lifted her head, tears still shining in her eyes. "I don't understand humans," she said softly. "You came here for trade. You had no reason to help me. No reason to risk your life." Evan shrugged lightly. "I had a reason," he said. "What reason?" she asked, voice trembling. Evan looked at her, then at the tiny newborn resting on her chest. "No debt should take a child," he said simply. "Not on my watch." Ralinari wiped her tears. "But you don't even know us. You don't owe us anything." Evan shook his head. "Humans don't need to know someone to protect them." Ralinari stared at him, stunned by the honesty in his voice. There was no pride, no need for reward, just truth. Simple human truth. Outside, the fading sunlight touched the cracked floor, turning the dull metal into a soft shade of gold. Ralinari rocked her baby gently, her heart full and heavy at the same time. "Will the debt hunters come back?" she asked quietly. "Will they try again?" Evan looked toward the window, scanning the sky as if expecting trouble. "No," he said. "Not after today. And not after the Protectorate receives my report." Ralinari felt relief spread through her like warm water. Her baby would not be stolen again. This nightmare was over. Evan pushed himself away from the wall. "I'll leave tomorrow morning," he said. "There are other towns that need help." Ralinari's chest tightened. I wish you could stay longer. Just to know you're near." Evan offered a small smile, not wide, but warm. "You don't need me anymore. You were strong even when you thought you weren't." "Today wasn't just about me." Ralinari shook her head. "No. You saved us, you saved her." Evan approached her slowly and knelt down. He placed a gentle hand on the baby's tiny head. "Then promise me something," he said quietly. Ralinari looked up. "Anything. Raise her in a world where she never has to fear people like them," Evan said. "Make sure she grows up knowing she matters." Ralinari held her baby tighter. "I promise." Evan stood and walked toward the door. The last rays of the sun outlined his figure, making him look tall and strong against the fading light. "Goodbye, Ralinari," he said. "Goodbye." "And thank you, human," she whispered. Evan nodded once, then stepped outside into the twilight, walking toward his ship, toward the next place that needed a human willing to stand up for what was right. Inside the small home, Ralinari kissed her baby's forehead and whispered, "He came at noon and changed everything." Humans, strange, brave creatures, had once again proven something powerful. In the darkest moments, they were the light.